Hello and welcome! I'm DDF Racer, and today I'm going to do my best to teach you how to learn the quickest way around a racetrack to improve your sim racing lap times. Yeah, I know, right? That's quite a bold claim. No pressure. Now, this guide could apply to a circuit that you've never driven at before, but it could also apply to a circuit that you have driven at before, but I've always just struggled at. But to make it super simple, I've broken it down into 6 sections and time-coded them throughout the video. Before you start, get some references, learn the braking zones, refine those lines, get consistent, push yourself. This guide isn't going to teach you the specifics of how to actually drive, things like the perfect cornering lines, trail braking, weight transfer and all that. This guide also isn't going to teach you how to race at a circuit, either side by side with other humans or the AI. Those are huge topics in their own right and deserve a proper tutorial of their own. Instead, this is more about arming you with the mindset and the process that you need to approach any racetrack and figure out the best racing line for yourself. Because, let's be honest, it's always more satisfying and rewarding when you know why something works instead of just copying it. Now, of course, if you find this video useful, don't forget to leave it a like and also share any questions or thoughts you might have in the comment section below. Anyway guys, let's get stuck in. Turn the racing line off. It might help at first, but it's actually going to stop you from memorizing the circuit and learning how to drive in general in the long run. You're going to need to be able to identify features in the track's surface and immediate surroundings and use them accordingly. But you can't do that if you're just focusing on that immediate piece of tarmac in front of you with that red and green line that's just telling you where to brake and where to accelerate. Turn damage off. Let's be honest, you are going to make mistakes and get it wrong, and when you're learning, you shouldn't be punished for having an off and taking damage which could affect the handling of the car or even kill it completely. Besides, you'd have to go back to the pits and do an entire outlap again, and that's just going to take up a lot of valuable time. Seriously, it's fine. Nobody's judging you. Turn off fuel and tyre use and any dynamic weather. Ideally, you want to be working with the same conditions, lap in, lap out. Having a circuit that rubbers in, tyres that wear out, and a fuel load that gets lighter throughout the stint, it's all going to affect the true pace of the car. If you're practicing long run pace for an event, however, then in that situation, you need to learn how the car evolves over the course of the stint, but right now, we're purely just learning the circuit, and it's all about having those fixed conditions. Know your car. If you're trying to learn a new circuit that you're not familiar with, then the last thing you need is to be second-guessing the car as well. Doesn't matter what type of car you drive, just pick something that you know. Although, that said, often a slower car is better for these things as it gives you more thinking time. Better to have a BMW 235i where you can feel the gradual weight transfer as opposed to a highly strung Formula 1 car which could just snap on you at a moment's notice. As long as you're comfortable in it and you can confidently understand the handling and predict what the car's going to do, then you'll be fine. For example, I know that when I drive this Audi R8 GT3, if I push too hard on corner entry, it kind of breaks into this pathetic rear slide and tells me I just need to dial it down a little bit. I'm just pushing too hard. I also know that if I'm not being pushed towards the outside of the track, then it means I haven't loaded up the car enough in the middle of the corner and could probably push a little bit harder next time as well. Be realistic. You're not going to be on the pace immediately, and it's going to take a little bit of time before this new circuit becomes second nature. Unless, of course, you're in the 1% of sim racers out there who are what's considered to be an alien. In which case, what are you doing smurfing around on a video like this? Just kidding. Thanks for watching. Great to have you here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. In all seriousness though, don't get frustrated if you don't get this straight away. Many times, I've hated a circuit at first, only to realize that it was just because I hadn't figured it out yet. For your first lap on track, all you need to do is drive real slow, get some reference points, and take a good look around. This is why we turned off the racing line. Seriously, just cruise it round at 80k and take note of things like where all the curbs start and finish, changes in the track surface, where advertising boards are, all the fence posts by the side of the track. This isn't a competition right now. The lap time doesn't matter. The point here is to get yourself familiar with the circuit and also to take a moment to appreciate the work by the visual artists who made this virtual rendition of your favourite circuit possible. GG developers! Going full blast at this point without knowledge of where the road actually goes or what markers to look out for is gonna see you off track out of control and learning absolutely nothing. However, don't be making note of anything as a reference that could change throughout the course of a race or a practice session. The big ones are shadows and also those rather disposable brake marker boards and bollards on the side of the track. Yeah, I know they're super useful and all that, but if someone wipes them out halfway through the race, then you're screwed. Your reference point's gone. And the same goes for the shadows as well. If the time of day changes, your shadows are going to change. And therefore your references are going to change as well. Having a circuit map up on the screen right now might seem like a useful thing to have, but trust me, turn it off. When you're racing, you need your eyes on the road and your reference points, not glancing off to the side of the screen at some map to remember where you are. We're not going for lap times yet, just familiarity, so it doesn't matter if these are the slowest laps you've ever done. You're finding unique identifiers around the circuit, landmarks that are going to help you tell one particular corner from another. For example, a lot of the corners at Brno are very similar when you look at the layout. I mean, come on, there are 4 almost exact copies of a medium speed left, immediately followed by a medium speed right, and all the corners are roughly the same radius too. If it's the first time you've driven at this circuit, it can be genuinely confusing, but I know that on this corner, I'm staring into the forest with flat curbs, whereas on this corner, I'm staring into the sky with sausage curbs. Things like that are what you need to be taking mental notes of throughout these slow laps. And now it's just a case of keeping on doing those slow laps until you can confidently complete one lap without questioning which way you're meant to be going. Once you can do that, then it's time to start building up the speed and learning those braking zones. Learning the correct braking zones also means it's time to start applying full throttle on corner exits. Your braking zone for a corner depends on your approach speed, so you're not going to learn anything if you're not heading towards the corner at racing speed. When trying to find a braking point for the first time, it's always best to err on the side of caution. As a very rough guide, around about the 100 meter mark in a normal GT car is what's considered to be a late braking point, so for now, maybe why don't we just dial it back to say 150 or 200 meters. If you brake way too early, then that's fine. Preferable actually at this point. Just remember where you braked and then try a little bit later on the next lap. Rinse and repeat the whole process until you find a comfortable point at which the car slows down enough so that by the time you reach the apex, you're not sailing wide or locking the brakes up. All you're going to be doing is scrubbing that rubber along the track surface and wearing it down, not to mention running wide and ruining the exit. Again, this isn't a bad thing right now, just remember what you did and adjust accordingly for the next lap. It's much better to set a slow lap that you can improve on bit by bit and see progress, and spend ages trying to set a fast lap as your first time and making lots of mistakes and just getting frustrated. Right now, it's all about being methodical and removing the whole "I got lucky with that lap time" mentality. The aim at this stage of your practice is to get to a point where not only do you know which way the circuit goes, but you know at which points that you need to get on the brakes to make it through every corner on the track at a reasonable speed without guessing. Quick little tip here also. When I first learn a circuit, I tend to memorize corners by what gear I need to take them in. For example, the first corner at the end of the back straight is a low 3rd gear, and the chicane in the first sector, that's a low 6th gear and then a high 5th gear. Don't know why, but it works, and I'd be interested to know if you guys think the same way about it as well. Now that you can complete a safe racing lap consistently, it's time to bring your attention to maximizing your speed through each individual corner or sequence of corners. At first, the gap to the faster cars might seem huge, several seconds ahead, but if you can just improve by 1/10 at each corner, then on your average circuit with 10 to 20 corners, that's an easy 1 or 2 seconds a lap. Just like that. And the reality is that it'll be much more than a 1/10 per corner, because if you're faster in the corner exit, you're going to be carrying that advantage and gaining time all the way to the next braking zone. Now each corner can be broken down into several sections, such as the braking we just mentioned, but also the mid-corner speed and whether it's better to apex early or late, how early to put the power down and so on. It might sound super complicated with all of these different factors to take into consideration, but just remember that each lap is an opportunity to learn. The skill here lies in recognizing what you did wrong and correcting it the next time round. Some corners may need a slightly unconventional line too. Hairpins are a great example of this, where different approaches can make a massive difference. Let's have a quick look at the Chang circuit with 2 long straights punctuated by a super wide but super tight hairpin. You can make up a lot of time by holding the car tight to the apex and saving some time in the corner itself. Or you could maybe sacrifice a little bit of speed on entry, cutting back late to the apex and maximizing the acceleration, which is going to carry a little bit of extra speed all the way down the straight to the next corner. However, the same doesn't apply at the first corner of the Nürburgring. Even though it's a similarly long straight into a tight corner, it immediately leads into another tight corner in the other direction. So there's no point taking the late apex and maximizing your exit speed, since you're going to be fed directly into another braking zone and you can't use any of that extra speed. You've just sacrificed the entry for nothing. However, things like the banking on the road surface, the angle at which it leans towards or away from the apex, can make a huge difference as well. Moving along a few corners at the Nürburgring, and we come across the Dunlop hairpin, which is quite heavily banked, and that means that the surface of the road actually pushes you around the corner, and you can take more speed than you normally would if the racetrack was flat. The best line around here is to follow the contour of the road and be brave. Lean on the car, trust the grip, and make the most of that pulling effect. Conversely, there are also corners that fall away towards the edge of the track and actually push you away from the apex, such as the final corner here at Sepang. So you're going to need to take these ones much slower than you think, because it'll feel like you've got a lot less grip than you should have. Pretty much every corner that you encounter is going to be unique, and it's going to need its own approach. Unless, of course, your name's Herman Tilke and you get tasked with building a circuit from all of the best corners from around the world. Kota. Going back to what I said at the start of the video though, by doing those initial slow laps and analysing the track surface, taking note of where all the signs are, where all the curbs are, and just getting familiar with all your markers, it just makes this part of the process so much easier and takes all of the guesswork out of it, because you've got your references and it's just a case of trial and error. It's at this point that you might want to switch your lap time delta on and set it to reference your personal best lap in the session. During a race it could be quite distracting, and I know plenty of people don't use it. During this practice phase with fixed conditions, it gives you an idea of the comparison to your best lap so far. So it's easy to see if you're doing better or worse, or if a particular line works or it doesn't. It's immediate feedback. You can see instantly if something you've just tried gained you time or lost you time. And trust me, it is very easy to get addicted to that little green bar. That said, don't go nuts just yet. We need to aim for consistency first, not one lap pace. What's the point of being able to nail a fast lap 10% of the time when you can nail a marginally slower lap 100% of the time? Being consistent allows you to get into a flow, gives you confidence in the car, and therefore lets you push it to the limit much more gradually. And if you do pin it, it's fine, trust me. I ought to know. Just keep going though, don't restart. And this is why we turn damage off. It's much better to just get the car going again and finish what you started. You want to try and keep as much of that flow as possible. If you restart, then you're just going to be practicing the first part of the lap over and over and over again, and not getting familiar with the end of the lap. This is especially true at longer, more difficult circuits such as Macau or the Nordschleife. You're probably going to bin it quite a bit when you start out, but if you go back to the beginning of the lap every time you make a mistake, then you're not going to know what to do once you actually get past that corner. You keep on screwing up. Because you've got damage turned off, just keep going. You've not lost anything. Just get the car back on track, keep going on with the lap, and maybe just dial it back a little bit. At this stage, you need to make it your aim to finish every lap that you start, not make every lap that you start your fastest lap so far. If you're a few tenths down on your delta, then so what? I mean, you're still going to be pretty much close to the pace, and it's a lot better than being in the fence. When you feel like you reach a point where you can consistently put a solid lap on the board and you can't really tell where the time is, then it's time to move on and push yourself and find that ultimate lap time. Go and watch a specific circuit guide or an esports hot lap. Seriously, it's not cheating. You can learn so much from watching an alien. Go on YouTube and have a look for the car track sim combo that you're trying to learn. Chances are someone's already uploaded something, especially if it's one of the more popular combos like GT3s at Spa. Some people spend a lot of time and effort putting these laps together and can give you an idea of where the time can be found. Sure, these guys might be running proper car setups which will give them much more grip, but on a fundamental level, it's a super easy way to see if you're maybe taking the wrong line through a particular corner, or maybe braking at the wrong point. Once you see it done properly, you can compare it to what you're doing, and then try and remember those pointers the next time you fire up the practice session. Load up a leaderboard ghost. Now this is one of the reasons why I absolutely love Race Room. You can go head to head with other people with fixed car and track conditions, and it'll also show you a ghost of their lap too, so you can see exactly where they're finding the speed. Now the trick here is to pick a time which is close to yours, but faster, and see what they're doing better compared to you. Don't go straight in for the leader's time if you're 5 seconds off the pace, because after a couple of corners, the ghost will be heading into the distance out of sight and you're not going to be able to see them and learn anything. And it's also going to force you into the mentality that you need to push harder to catch up, and that's going to cause more mistakes. Remember, learning a track is often a slow and gradual process that's going to take time, repetition, and a bit of patience. Now once you've learned from this leaderboard ghost and you've matched that time, well done, give yourself a pat on the back. But did you see how easy it was to match that time when you had someone to chase, when you had a reference point? Yeah, well, let's repeat that process again. Go back to the menu, go and pick a faster ghost, and go and have another go. We're just going to keep on driving against faster and faster ghosts until you either reach the limit of your abilities or find yourself at the top of the board. Look at the telemetry. If you want to get really specific, then you can pore over the data from your lap in a third-party telemetry program such as Z1 Analyzer, which is going to show you your throttle, your brake, your steering traces, along with suspension travel, lockups, corner speeds, that kind of thing. Which is also the kind of thing that you just don't have the capacity to think about when you're sat in the car concentrating, trying to nail the perfect lap. This in itself is a huge topic though, but if you do want to get into the telemetry side of things, then I've already made a video about this. Check out the link on top of the screen right now where I go through the basics of getting Z1 Analyzer set up and how to read the data. At this point though, when you can consistently nail a lap at your limit, it becomes less about learning the circuit and more about mastering your car control, learning to drive with other cars on the circuit, and also exploiting the peculiarities of the car setup and the physics of the sim you're using. The frustrating reality when you start to get near the top of the board is that you could be driving just as well as the aliens, but if your car isn't making the most from the setup, or you're not exploiting the physics, then you're never going to match those alien times no matter what you do. Yeah, I'm looking at you, R-Factor 2 and your wonky tyre pressures. But that's a whole other can of worms and not really the point of today's video. Maybe another time. And that's it. Guys, go out on track, go and get some practice laps in, and hopefully this guide comes in useful and you can improve your lap times. If the video does come in useful, then don't forget to leave it a like, and also share any thoughts and any questions you've got down in the comments below. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the DDF Racer YouTube channel to see me put all of this, theoretically, into action in my regular races on my videos and live streams. Thank you so much for watching, you look after yourselves, and I'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.